Hello everybody, I think we're live and welcome to another episode of what is now called Music Talk. I think we're at number 21. So yeah, it's been going on for a while and today we're going to talk about stage fright or performance anxiety or whatever you want to call it, but basically it's when you have to do something live or in front of a public and things can get quite tricky. So maybe my experience will help you out. And we're going to wait for a couple of minutes until more people come in. Hello, everyone. I'm seeing the room filling up. Hello, that is Art. I'm fine, thank you. How about you? Yeah, everything's good. And for those of you who are new, every Saturday, 6:30 p.m. Central European Time, we are live for Music Talk, which is usually a music lesson or guitar lesson or production, sometimes something like today, which deals with live performance. And, based on my experience, I try to help you out with a few tricks, and then we always open it up for questions. So you have your chance of asking whatever you want to ask, and I'll do my best to help you. Plus, all the people in the chat room, they're really nice folk from all over the world, and they will help you out as well. All right, so if you're new here, welcome. If you're a regular, welcome too. Welcome back. And as always, please feel free to use the chat and all that kind of stuff. All right, so we're going to get started pretty soon. Hello, Jim. Yeah, oh, by the way, if you are in America, congratulations are in order for your elections, because, every 4 years it's quite of a big deal. And this year has been a bit, there's been a bit of drama, but still, it seems like everything is finished and you have a new president. So, whatever you think politically, this is, of course, in no way a political statement. I give no detail about my own personal preferences, but congratulations are always in order for such an important election. It will affect America, it will affect us. So, all right. So it's, I've lived a few when I lived in America, always with some trepidation, but also it's just that, in America, with such a big country, with such polarized views sometimes, it's always a triumph of democracy. So I'm really happy for you guys, whatever the outcome, which hasn't quite come out yet when I logged on, but I think it's pretty obvious now. So anyway, I hope you're happy with the result, and I hope if you're not happy with the result, then it will all work out, because I think the US is such a great place. It has a special place in my heart. I lived there for a long time, and actually most of my formative years I spent there, and I've known the America of the big cities and the America of the rural America, and I pretty much love everyone there, and it's a huge part of my life experience. So anyway, moving on. What I've been doing today's Saturday again, as always, and I appreciate you being here instead of doing all other kinds of Saturday stuff. But check this out. This is our friend the Pumpkin from last week. She was doing a lot better last time, if you remember. And now she's kind of getting old, and I think she's about to retire. But yeah, I think it's even more appropriate when she looks like this than last week when it was all new and shiny. So this is really Halloweenish. The thing is, I'm about a week late. But yeah, so this is what's been happening to it. I think it's time to put in the dumpster. But yeah, so I know if you're new here and you're logging on, you're like, what the hell is this? Why is there a pumpkin on the screen? I was supposed to be a guitar lesson. But anyway, then I went for a walk today, and I like to share a couple of pictures sometimes. And this is what I was seeing today. It was raining, but look at those colors. This is close to my house. It's pretty cool. And I know some of you live in beautiful natural places, so feel free to, well, you can't really share pictures, but let me know what you've been doing if you want to. And then, keeping with the spirit of America and the United States today, I did this. So I made pancakes for everyone, and they taste a little better than they look. So this has been my Saturday. I hope yours was more fun and more interesting. But anyway, those are my 3 pictures for the day. Hello, Jaume, ¿qué tal? And Jim and Juan Pablo, ¿qué tal, Juan Pablo? Is that a hand sanitizer? I don't know. Well, hello, everybody. So today we're going to talk about stage fright, and maybe we should just get started, and as people come in, they will be able to join. As always, these videos will be up. When we're done, they will stay up on the channel, and you can watch them at your leisure. So yeah, today we're going to show you a few tricks that I use to deal with stage fright, and give you a little background. And this is very personal stuff, but what some of you might not know and this will not give any more legitimacy to what I'm about to tell you, but I am a psychologist actually. I graduated, I have a degree in psychology from California State University in Sacramento, and never actually got to work as a psychologist because I always knew that I wanted to play the guitar. And being a psychologist actually earned me a few lunches because nobody seems to believe that I'm a psychologist. They get to know me and they're like, "Get out of here, you're not a psychologist." And I say, "Yes, I am." And so we say, "Okay, well, if you are a psychologist, if I am, you'll buy me lunch, and if not, I'll buy you lunch." And then I get out my degree and show it to them, and then I win a lunch. And I think I'm going for lunch number 5 now. So if any of you don't believe me and you live close by, please feel free to challenge me to show you my psychology degree. Nobody believes it, but indeed I am. And I did some studies on it when I was studying for my undergraduate studies, because I always thought it was interesting how stress and anxiety works on the mind. And since I was already a pretty proficient guitar player and I was actually active performing, I thought it was an interesting thing. So I went around the conservatory and the music department and asked a bunch of questions. And there was also a bit of literature about it, which seems to be accepted on certain levels, like breathe and all that stuff, and visualize visualize success and all that stuff. And some of those things really didn't work for me. But I'm going to give you a little background on how I got started playing. I bought a guitar when I was 14 or 15. My parents bought me a guitar, and then pretty soon afterwards, I bought an electric guitar. And 2 months later, I was playing live. And so I didn't really have time to really think about what I was doing. And the only thing that I had, I was kind of prepared for as far as anxiety is because I was a professional swimmer. And I've been swimming since I was a little kid, maybe 3 or 4 years old. And I would go to the swimming pool every day, all year long. And during the summer, I would train twice. In the winter, I would train twice a day. So, this whole thing was for preparation for big competitions. So maybe I would do 6 months, and then there would be one competition that was really important. So all other competitions were like warm-ups, right? And then you had to get to the swimming pool that day at that time and deliver. And if you didn't deliver, then you kind of wasted 6 months of your life or a year, because then you wouldn't qualify for the important stuff. So I was conscious of the fact that sometimes in life you kind of have to deliver at a certain point, at a certain time. And so when I started playing live, it was, it kind of dawned on me that it was pretty similar. But the first time I played live, I was extremely sick. I had a very, very bad flu, and so I couldn't even stand up. So I went there to play, and I was leaning on the amp, played the set, got off stage, and I didn't even remember what happened. So I was kind of immune to it since then, because every time I got on stage, I was pretty relaxed. Because, I think my mom gave me something that day for the flu, and I was feeling pretty happy, actually. And after that, at that concert, I was asked to join my very first band, and they were already very active, and they were extremely active in the scene and quite popular, actually. So we used to play, small places, but also pretty big places. And I never really had a problem until I started playing my own music, the instrumental stuff. Because then I thought, now I can't hide behind anybody. There's no singer, there's nothing, it's just me standing there, and what if my songs are shit? And that's when kind of things started to get a bit more important. And to me, they became more, there was more at play, so to speak. And so I kind of started to develop a certain few tricks that I use and tips to get on stage and do my thing, right? So I'm going to share it with you. But first, if you want, please in the comments, let me know if you do perform live, and if you have had cases of performance anxiety or stage fright, or whatever you want to call it. But basically, being nervous before going on stage. And the most important thing is if that nervousness affected you, because that's another thing. If you are nervous before going on stage, but then you go up and everything's fine, then you really don't have a problem. Maybe those nerves are just the right amount to get you, to be sharp. So let me know if you play live and if you've had any problems. The other thing is that I've discovered through the years that stage fright doesn't really only apply to stage performance. I've seen it in studios. when you have to go record and you have to get your stuff together real quick, because you don't have all day to record a guitar part. And so I've been able to take advantage of the fact that I can control it in many situations where I'm in the studio and I have to perform, and I would just perform and, you know, get it right the first time or the second time, but you can't stay there for an hour to play 2 bars of music. You know, usually you cannot, especially if you're being paid for it. So that's another big thing. And then in this day and age, I've also met people who want to start doing YouTube, maybe other kind of, you know, similar things, and they're frightened to death. They're really scared, and you know, they're really fluent and interesting and engaging when you talk to them in person, but they become just, you know, really strange when they get in front of a camera. And so one experience I had with that was with the encyclopedia. And when I recorded the encyclopedia, it was about 10 or more hours of video. And my first idea was to have a script. And we tried the script for 3 hours and recorded 3 minutes. And I said, you know, fuck it. I threw away all the pages and I said, if it's something I know, I should be able to just deliver it. And so basically, the whole encyclopedia that you see, it's on the channel, it's all done live. Basically, it's one take. There's no cuts. If you look at it, there's no cuts or anything like that. And it came out a lot better. So I also noticed then that it's important to control this kind of anxiety in many different stages, not just the live stage. You know, certainly recording, streaming, YouTube. So whatever it is you want to do, you might find this beneficial. All right. So I'm gonna get started, but first let me see your comment. There is Art says, I don't perform live, but do notice a difference in things when I hit the record button on my DAW. Yes, definitely. And if you're by yourself, you know, it's more maybe of in a sense, it's more of a custom, you know, being accustomed to not performing at your best. But if you're in a room with other people watching and looking at the watch and going like, okay, well, 10 minutes and then you have to leave, then you really have to get your stuff together. And Jim, I tried playing drums live once, was okay, but lots of mistakes. Never done with guitar though. All right, so yes, let's get through it. And I'm gonna give you 5 little tips, and there's more of course, but let me get started with the first one, which is the obvious one, which is to prepare, rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Now, this is obvious, of course, but I can't not mention it, because if you jump on stage and you know that you don't know the material, then, you know, you are really conspiring against yourself. You are setting everything up for failure. So rehearsal is extremely important, and I would suggest always rehearsing. You know, when you're with a band, rehearse as if it was a concert. Now, if you have to work on a song, by all means, work on a separate song. But as soon as possible, you should go like, okay, let's play the whole show, and then we'll see what happens when, because you know the stuff will happen live that you don't notice when you're rehearsing. You will notice how the crowd kind of gets disinterested at a certain point sometimes, and you can't feel that energy go up and down until you're rehearsing the whole show. So that's one thing I always really pushed my band to do is, okay, I know, you know, we're tired, but let's play the whole show once more. And that also helps with if you have a singer, you know, so that way they know they can carry the whole concert, or maybe they have to switch one song for another so they have time to warm up. But really, beyond all that, it's a matter of putting in your mind the fact that you can actually perform a whole concert. Because playing one song is one thing, playing a whole show, so keeping your attention, you know, your attention all the way through, and your attention to detail, and your control of the instrument, and the arc of each song, you know, being able to not just go through the motions, all that is discovered when you actually perform the whole concert. You just don't want to do it in front of people, okay? So that's one thing. If you don't rehearse, it's gonna be pretty difficult to not be nervous, because we all know how it goes, right? You go to if you have an exam, then when you went to school, then of course, if you haven't studied, you know. So this is pretty obvious. We're going to be quick about this, but certainly rehearse. And I would say always rehearse more than you think you need. Always rehearse. The thing that sometimes you hear people saying that if you rehearse too much, it's not as natural. I haven't noticed that. You know, the more I rehearse, the more I can just relax when I play live, and that's what makes it natural. And so I would always say, if you're in doubt, one more rehearsal. All right? So that's pretty easy. But now this one comes into play for all of you who are thinking of either starting to play live or maybe start on YouTube. That's one thing that, of course, I'm no expert on YouTube, as you can tell by by the number of people who watch my videos, but still, it is relatable to everything else you do in front of an audience. Maybe you go to a radio station, right, and you have to perform, and you can't even see all the people that are watching you. Or when I played for you guys the songs at the beginning of each video, that's, you can't really gauge anything. You can gauge the response, and you know that everything that you play is 100% direct into the speakers of the audience. There's no ambient sound, there's no people talking, there's no noise, there's no energy, So this might apply to a lot of people who are starting out, either live stage or streaming, that kind of stuff. And so start now means that you will have to go through a process and through a time when things will not be so great. And so it's better to do it, all those mistakes, it's better to make them when nobody's watching. And so if you have a band and you want to start playing live, now probably you can't with the pandemic, but maybe next year, I would say just go out and play, and don't be selective of where you play. You can play really bad, empty halls or bars, and still it's like putting miles on your car. You need miles. And the more miles you get, then the more comfortable you feel like. And so I suggest always doing it, always say yes to everything. If somebody invites you to play a song on stage, always say yes. If somebody invites you to go to the studio and play on a song, say yes. And if it doesn't go well, it will happen eventually. You have to make all those mistakes. You have to play your bad concerts. You will have to do it. You'll have to be at a show and nothing works. And you have to be at a show and you can't hear a guitar. And you'll have to write 100 bad songs. You might as well do it now. So that's one thing that I noticed in pretty much everything. If you jump into the pool before doing your homework, then you're gonna have a hard time. So always start small. And for example, if you want to start a YouTube thing, maybe you should do a few private videos first, put them out, and then maybe do a couple of live things when nobody's watching. I think that's an important thing. But this is also pretty obvious. And which brings me to another one, which is visualization. Visualize the performance. And through my studies in psychology, I've noticed a lot of people seem to believe that you have to visualize the outcome of your concert. So basically, close your eyes, imagine yourself performing great in front of people. And that never really worked for me, because I thought, well, it's easy to imagine it. We can all imagine performing great, but when you get there, everything is different. And so I realized early on that don't put your attention to the outcome of how you're going to play. Don't think about how great you're going to sound. Just visualize the performance. So maybe you're playing in a room that you know already, so visualize the stage. You can visualize how you're going to get on stage. Basically, what you want is get to the place where you're going to perform and not feel like it's something completely alien and new. You want it to feel like something that's comfortable and that you've been there before. Now, with time, if you play 200 concerts or 300 concerts in your life, they're all pretty much the same. You're not going to find a room that you're like, wow, this room is really throwing me off. But in the beginning, it's important. Maybe you can just, now with Google, you can just look up the room and go like, okay, so here's the stage. Now you kind of know where it's facing. It's not a brand new thing. You'll know when you're going to set up and wear your guitar. You'll know where the audience will be. And, if there's a bar right there, there's going to be noise, all that kind of stuff. But you don't have to worry too much about, am I going to play great? Just think of the environment. And if you take in the environment, then when you get there, you'll feel a lot more comfortable. And this has happened to me many times. And sometimes I still do it. I will go like, okay, well, where are we playing tomorrow? So I go online and I check out a picture or two or a video of the place. And that way, when I get there, all I have to think about is setting up and not, feel like I'm in a strange place. And also what I do, which is nothing to do with this, I have my gear, of course, but I always have something that's mine. Like I like to drink tea, as you know, and I usually bring my own tea. And at the usual time, I might have my tea. And so that makes me feel like everything is normal. And, so visualizing the performance is good. Visualizing the place, visualizing the environment, visualizing even more or less the time you're going to play. and don't focus so much on the outcome. And the reason for that is that the next point, and this is something that I never really see people talk about, because a lot of this advice is on you, right? It's about you. Think of how great you play. Don't focus on the bad stuff. Rehearse. But really, to me, this is what I discovered that's the most important thing, all right? Basically, to get over yourself. And remind yourself that when you perform for people, doesn't matter where, live, on camera, or whatever it is, you're not really doing it for yourself. And people even, they're not really there for you. You know, when people go to a concert, they're not really there for you. They're there for what you can do for them. And so that's important. And so that might seem like, okay, well, that's not good, right? They're not even there for me. Like, I'm already nervous, and then I have to think that these people don't care about me. But no, what you're there for is you're there to deliver something, to deliver music. But you're not there to be studied and judged. People will respond to the music, all right? And you're just there to deliver that music. And so a lot of things that to you are so important, like, am I playing everything perfect? Am I 100% on time? How was the ending of the song? Were we all together, or did the drummer speed up at the beginning? So all these things that to you are, of course, extremely important, because that's how we get good with our instruments, and that's how our bands get better. We focus on the details. We practice all our chords and our harmonies and our scales. We practice all of it to be perfect. But people don't really respond to that. They don't really care about that either. And so once you stop worrying about yourself and you start focusing on the important thing, which is the music, then you'll notice what is truly important. And sometimes it's not that important that you forget how the chorus went. And sometimes it's not important that your guitar doesn't sound as good as in the studio, or that some people over there are talking and they should be listening to me. And it's not about you. It's really about the music. And if you can get there, it takes so much burden off your mind. You know, it's like somebody taking a bag of bricks and laying it on the floor for you. And so that's the most important thing. And so that's why I always say, don't really visualize you being great. It doesn't matter. You know, you have to visualize maybe the environment, but don't worry about it. You know, if you're well rehearsed, then you have the tools to transmit the music, you know, to share the music. And that's all there is to it. You shouldn't worry about being great yourself, because you'll never be great enough. You know, when you play, it never goes as well as you think it should go. I've played, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of songs live. And I can't think of once when I said, okay, this is great. And when I do think it's great, then I look back at the video and I'm like, well, it's not as great as I thought, you know, and sometimes it's the opposite. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this. You think everything sucked, and man, that was the most terrible concert I've ever played, and that was shit. And then you get off stage and somebody you trust goes like, wow, I don't think I've ever seen you play as well as you did today. And so that's because it's not about you. It's about the response and the communication with the audience. So really focus on the audience, which means basically worry about the emotional stuff, worry about the music, not about the technicalities of it. Okay, so everything else falls by the wayside. Sometimes you hit a wrong note and you think, wow, you know, everybody's going to notice and this and that. And people are not really thinking about that. You know, they have very little time amidst all the emotional things they're feeling with their music to worry about a note. They don't care. And sometimes it's even better. They go like, okay, well, at least it's live. You know, they're so used to seeing people play perfectly, because nobody plays perfect. All right, so this here is the most important thing I ever found out about playing live. You know, it's all about the experience, not yours, not your experience, but your audience's. And so sometimes you'll go to a place and it sounds like shit, and the lights are in your eyes. You know, of course, do everything you can to fix it, but it's not about you. So once you hit the stage, you can't change everything else. You know, the guitar will sound what it will sound like. You know, the stage will sound like it sounds, and the hall sounds like the hall sounds, and your problems are your problems. But if you focus on the music, you'll have a much better time. And if you have a good time, then people will have a better time. And I've fallen into this trap a few times. You know, I've worried so much about all the little details, and I thought I was doing it for the audience, but eventually you think about it and you're really doing it for your own ego, because when you go to a concert, you don't want to see somebody so worried about all their little problems on stage. You want somebody who worries about what you're getting. And I thought I was doing it for the audience, but eventually I realized, I'm so stressed out because I'm trying to prove to myself how great I am and how good I play, and look how hard I worked on this thing. I deserve to play well because I spent so many hours rehearsing, and it's not fair that I screw up in front of people. What are they going to think about me? It's all wrong, So do your best, of course. Rehearse until your fingers bleed, but eventually you have to just give it up to the audience and don't worry about it. And I know it's hard to think of. Some people say just relax. It's hard, but when you think about this, that is not about you, then it will help. And it hurts because we think it's all about us, right? That's why we're on stage. We're a bit egomaniacs, but truly this will help you out. And then finally, I realized something. I had somebody in my band a long time ago who was extremely scared and afraid of playing live. He wouldn't say it, he would say, no, this is nothing, I don't mind. But then he would go on stage and he would just freeze. And so we would be playing, and and once in a while you would hear this guy go like, what are you playing? What is this? Or maybe he had a little part by himself and we never knew if it was going to work out, and he could play perfectly at rehearsals. But his mind he lost it when people were watching. And so one day I told him, go and meet the audience. Okay, so I don't know why I thought of that, but I thought, if he's so stressed about it, he must feel like he's, because you see it, people that get stressed on stage, it feels like they get into this little bubble and they're not aware of everything that's going on. They're so into what they're doing that they lose contact with the audience and they lose contact with the music. It becomes a chore. It becomes, I have to perform and I have to do it well and blah, blah, blah. And it's all must have and all that kind of stuff, which really doesn't work in a creative environment. And so I told him, just go out before the show and talk to people. So he did. He went out and talked to people and came back, and he had never played so well. Because this kind of goes back to the previous point. And I've done it a couple of times too. And when you go out and meet your audience, then you lose that me here and them here, and how are we going to get in touch? Because you go to your audience, you talk to them, you become basically your own audience. You identify with them, and you realize what's important to them. Most people are there to have a good time. They're not there to judge your notes. Of course, you should respect them and play well, but they're not there to analyze every second of your performance and to say, well, is he moving enough and is he not moving enough? They're there to accept you. As long as you're honest about it, they will accept what you're doing. And if not, they won't like it. That's fine, but they're not there to analyze you and to dissect you. And so sometimes you can just go out on the floor and tell people, hello, my name is Andre and I'll be playing tonight. I'm a bit nervous. And most times, actually 100% of the time, they'll tell you, oh, don't worry about it. We're having a great time, and maybe we just went to dinner all together with our friends, and now we're here and we're having a drink, and we can't wait to hear you, and blah, blah, blah. And you realize then how little attention they're putting to all those little details that you're so stressed about. Well, am I going to forget the intro to this song? And what if my harmonics don't ring out as much as usual, and what if I lose my mind here and I forget the solo and I have to improvise it? They don't care about that. They're not even considering it as an option. They're just there to have a good time. And so this is actually pretty cool, and I've tried it a few times since with some other people who are like some students. Maybe they have to play, and so I said, just meet your audience, go out there and talk to them, and and it seems to work really well. And so that's my final bit of advice. And so the first three things we talked about, so rehearse and then do it as quickly as possible. Just go out there and do it, because you'll never be able to learn it at your house. You have to go out and have an audience. And to visualize the performance, these are more popular things, right? They're more common. So if you look into performance anxiety or stage, managing stage fright, those are things that I think are pretty obvious. But this one is a big one, so if I might say so myself, this is something you should keep in mind. And then meeting your audience is a cool trick to get to get started, because and if you're doing the YouTube thing, maybe you can just talk to people, or leave comments. I don't know. I'm not really good on the online thing. Besides, I think online is a bit more difficult because people are behind the screen, they're not really interacting with you. And I'm sure that most people who leave bad comments, which I'm lucky enough to barely, I don't think I have any, also because my channel is not so big, but because you guys are so nice. But people who get bad comments, I think they would never get them if they were in person. If they were in person with somebody. So this is a world that I don't quite understand as much as the real interaction with an audience. But so yeah, those are my little tips. And I think I went a bit too quickly today. It's only been 30 minutes. But I wouldn't mind maybe seeing what you think of this and what your own problems have been with performing, or even with the thought of performing. Because maybe you haven't played live, and maybe you haven't played live because you are concerned about this. And all that I said today, of course, is based on my own experience. Some people do need to, relax and breathe deeply, and that never worked for me. If I start breathing deeply, I start thinking about everything that is going to go wrong, because my mind stops racing for a little bit and go, okay, now, surely I can't remember what the first song starts like, and I know I'm going to be by myself on stage and I won't know what to do. And so I rather not do that. I just warm up and then hit the stage. But I wouldn't mind hearing from you guys what your concerns are, and if you've had any luck with some other trick that you can use to overcome this. And as always, it's a bit of a delay in the chat room. I think it's about 30 seconds. So, Kike. ¿Qué tal, Kike? A trick I found was to look at the audience, but above their heads. Okay, yeah. Well, that is a trick, too. But if you look at the audience above their heads, so you kind of like ignoring, like pretending they're not there. That's another... Yeah, but that kind of defeats the purpose of playing live, right? So you play live, but pretend they're not there. But yeah, it's true. Another thing that I know works is to actually look at somebody. So this has helped me, because sometimes I know I'm making this about me, but that's based on experience. But really, this comes from Kike's comment. What's happened to me a lot of times with the music I play is that sometimes you go like, well, do you want to play here? You're gonna play opening for this other band. And most of these bands, of course, all of them have singers. They're more regular kind of bands. And so I know when I go on stage that there's gonna be a few people who enjoy guitar, and maybe they're guitar players, and because they're always rock bands, so a lot of the audience is well versed in rock music, and they appreciate guitar because it's such a big part of it. So I know some people are gonna like it, some people might be surprised, and some people will be like, wow, man, what is this? When is the singer coming out? And if he's not coming out, how long are we going to have to suffer through this? And so you have the audience, is going to be into you, or sometimes people are just looking at the bar drinking, like, man, you might as well look here if you're not, but people have think what they think. And what I've noticed is that since you have this huge variety of interest levels in the audience, and this happens in any concert. I mean, I've seen concerts where, I was like this. And I turn around and there's somebody looking at their phone, or, you never know. Even if you're AC/DC, you might have that problem. And so what I've noticed is that I sometimes, when I know there's like 2 or 3 people that I can see, because sometimes you can't see past the first 3 or 5 or 10 rows. And so I'm looking at them and I go, okay, so this guy, and this girl, they're really into it. And so when I need a little boost, or when I'm playing and I'm a little like, oh man, is this coming, is this going over well, or are they getting it? Sometimes there's a slow song and you think it's going to be a great idea to play the slow song, and you're like 1 minute into it and you're like, man, when is this song going to end? Because I'm seeing people lose interest. And so I always go back to those 2 or 3 people. I kind of look at them and I see that they're interested and they're into it, and that helps. That helps kind of focus back into the music, because if you start thinking that people don't like your music or they're not interested in it, then really it's a stupid thing to think, because there's no way you can tell what people are thinking. And so you get into that loop of it's a destructive loop. You think they're not into it, and you start thinking about that, and you're like, man, what is this song? This song is not working. When is it gonna be over? The more you think that, the more shitty the song sounds, and the more they will lose interest, and the more they will look like they're losing interest. And so it's a big feedback loop. And so it's important when you feel the situation slip from your hands, like, this song is not really working, then that's when you have to perform it even better. And so it's useful to pick a few audience members that are really into it. You see them, they're really getting it. And so you go back to them. And it will help you get through the song. And then you'll be surprised when you get off stage how many people will go like, no, that song, what do you mean boring? No, I didn't get bored at all. That was my favorite song. A lot more people than you can see, because sometimes people, they don't owe you that. They don't owe you going like every 2 seconds. They're there and they're getting the music and reacting the way they want. And sometimes it's not an over affectionate display, So, but yeah, good comment, Kike. Jim, I write and record at home and even release an EP. All right, well, give us the details. If you want, please do share your EP title. We're gonna look it up. But don't know where to start thinking about doing live, because I'm just working on projects by myself. Yes, well, that is, especially right now, you're not gonna be able to, but it's really as simple as, I don't know what kind of music you play. If it's a little more viable than mine, my music, it took me a long time to be able to get to playing live, because it's a hard sell. It's pretty hard to convince a club manager or a tour manager or a promoter that what you play is gonna go over well with people. So with time, it gets a little easier. But if you're playing regular music, then certainly you can just get a band together, go talk to some clubs, and get started. The easiest thing I found was always to play with other bands. So you can just go, I know 2 bands in the area, talk to them, play for free, and play early, so you don't get stressed out. There's few people in the audience, that's fine. The first concerts, which we talked about, I think it was here, right? Point 2, start now, screw up when nobody's watching. That means basically your first concerts should probably be just glorified rehearsals. You go with your band and you perform in an actual venue, and that's already something, and then more people will come, and then you get used to it. I got thrown in the big pool, very early. I was 16, I was already playing pretty big places, and so I was so stupid back then, and so I was crazy, and I didn't even think about it. So I would play sometimes in front of hundreds or even thousands sometimes of people, and I would go like, okay, where's the guitar? And then, as I said, when I started playing my own music, because it was our band, so I of course wrote music there. But when it became my own solo thing, that's when it got stressful, especially in the beginning. Because I was like, wow, there's so much involvement and so much emotional load here that I have to carry on my shoulders. Okay, take a listen. Search for Jindin on YouTube, of course. So everybody, if you guys want, you can check Jim's music out. I will do that, of course. And yeah, the good thing about it, I never say I'll get back to you, I'll tell you if I like it, because who cares, right? We make music and then people decide if they like it or not. I do care. I really appreciate it when people say they like it, but if you start worrying about it, forget it. Again, it's kind of like the concert thing. You're recording, thinking of, will the people like it? So Jim, great. If we maybe can get some people your way and they get to discover your music, that's great. Cool. So if you guys have any more questions or comments, I'll wait for your comments. I know Indrajit, who's a guy from India, from Sri Lanka, sorry, and he's always here, he's a regular, and he plays too. He said he played a few shows, so I wonder, I did play in the Maldives once, very, very improvised, they just call, oh yeah, actually I'm going to share a little thing. Please do leave your comments, but when I when I said say yes to everything, before I said always take any opportunity to go on stage. One time I was in a swimming pool. I was in Egypt on holidays by the Red Sea because I like scuba diving. I was a kid. I was maybe, I don't think I was, I think I was 19 or something like that, maybe 20 at the most. And I was relaxing by the swimming pool, and this guy, an Italian TV star in a way, who was like a variety kind of show. He said, he started talking, and like, man, I wish there was a guitar player, because he was talking to a friend, and I'm like, hey, you're playing tonight? And he says, yeah, I'm playing here at the theater, in this huge theater by the hotel, and it was like half on land and half like like going over the Red Sea. Was beautiful. And he says, yeah, I'm playing, but I don't trust these, all the people who play here in the hotel. I don't know if they're good, and I want to play like about an hour, and like, I play guitar. And he's like, you do? And I'm like, yeah, I even have my own guitar, because I never travel without my guitar. And he says, well, if you want to play, we started, I think, 10:30 at night or something. Just be there at 10 and plug in. How are we going to plug in? And like, I don't know, but I have a little pedal board, and I have a Zoom pedal board. It was just a pedal, it was like this. Those little gray ones, I think they were called the 505s. So you can imagine what they sounded like. And I just went there at 10 o'clock, and I said, no. They're like, what are you doing here? You can't come in yet because it's at 10:30. I'm like, no, I'm going to play. And I put my pedal on the floor, and we played for like 90 minutes or around that. And I didn't even know the songs. And I just winged it, and he would call the song, and he would, I would look at his hand, and then I would perform. And this was in front of a lot of people, and in this beautiful place over the Red Sea. And I was standing there, and like, man, if I had thought about this a little more, I would never have, not even just accepted it, but I came up with the idea of playing. So I said, I would have never done it, but look at this now. I'm having a great time. And the next day I got free everything, because everybody loved how I played. And so I got free drinks and free this and free that. They say, no, come to this table where this, all the entertainment people were. And so, yeah, I would say, always say yes. And if I had played like crap that night, who cares, right? Then I would have left 3 or 4 or 5 days later on the plane, and nobody would have seen me again. So, carpe diem. That's my thing. If just go and play. It's practice, of course, at home, because now there's the difference, right, between being kind of brave about it and being dumb. So be aware of where you're at, where your level is, and always shoot for just a little more. Don't go overboard. Don't do too much, but yeah. Jim, you like it? Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Any more questions? It's going to be a short one otherwise, which is fine, or even if it's not questions, it can be comments. I really enjoy reading your experiences. If not, we'll just I'm trying to think what to do next week, and I have a few ideas, but if you have any suggestions for the next video, let me know too. That is art. Maybe start live in front of my cat. Yes. Well, now with the online thing, it's pretty incredible how much you can, how many people you can reach, just in a pretty not really stressful kind of way. But one word of advice though, and I know it has nothing to do with your cat, but you should, by the way, you could start playing just in front of your friends. Parents and family, it doesn't work. I don't know, it never really worked for me, because my mom always said I was great, my dad never got it, and now my family, they really don't care. They don't care. I even have songs about some family members. One is one of them, and I'm like, well, people listen to it all over the world. Like, oh yeah, great, thanks. But I know they don't really get it, which is good, because I can always go home and go like, listen to this. And when nobody's paying attention, then I know that maybe I need to work a little bit more on it. But so what was I saying? Yeah. So the difference between, you have to be careful with the difference between the YouTube thing or the streaming thing and the true live performance. because there's so many nets when you do the YouTube thing. And well, if you do something 100% live, I don't mean live that you play a few times and then when you get the right one you post it. I mean live like this, like live and play a song. Now that I find that is pretty similar. So when I'm standing there playing a song for you and I know this is it, there's no 2 takes, there's nothing. If I need to warm up, I must do it before I turn the camera on because I'm gonna play it once. And I find that to be even more stressful than live because, as I said, you can hear everything, and the rhythm tracks are from the record. There's no band that pushes and pulls with you, so you kind of have to play square like the record, but at the same time playing live. And so, you know, that's the most stressful thing. But be careful with everything else. So being on camera on YouTube is not the same thing as playing live. And I find also that the payoff is very different. So I will really suggest that everybody goes out there when the pandemic allows and just go anywhere with your guitar and play. And I used to do this at music stores. When I was afraid of playing in music stores, I would go, okay, now I have to overcome this. I can't be afraid of playing in music stores. And so I would sometimes do that. I would just go to a music store, try something, and force myself to play for a few minutes in a store because I was so concerned about not being able to play, which was weird because I already made records and stuff. You draw live, all right. Hey, that is art. If you want to share your channel, well, I guess we can just click on your thing, but if you have anything else you want to share, please feel free to do it in the chat room. I love art. I'm really bad at drawing, but I do draw every day. I make some strange characters, and I won't share them. But yeah, I'm really into watercolors. Yeah, cool. So please do share your work as well. And then we have to listen to Jim's album. Maybe someday I'll put short excerpts of guitar stuff on YouTube. Yes. Well, Kike, the guy up here in the chat room, he has a channel and he makes covers. And I would say he's one of my students in person. Actually, he comes to the school, and he has a channel, plays great guitar. You know, he's an advanced student, so we go into the really deep stuff. But he has a channel, so please do check his channel out as well. And then, of course, we always have the Desafinados. You guys know him, Alex, great guitar player. Not here today, but he's always here. And so I know you guys are experienced and you know what you're doing. So I always feel kind of bad about talking about this stuff with you guys, but sometimes it helps, you know, to hear somebody else's opinion. Juan Pablo says he needs drums lessons, yeah, and guitar lessons. Now, Juan Pablo, you do need guitar lessons. Sure, thanks, Andre. Most of my videos, music is stuff I wrote. Yes. I did check out your videos. All right, so yes, please do go and check everybody else's channel. You know, do that. It helps sometimes to know there's somebody out there who will check out your work. My music is simple but fun to create and play. All right. No, it's nice. It's nice. I heard some of your stuff. It's really nice. Well, I can stay here for a little longer, so please keep your comments coming. And I got my guitar ready here today, but it's plugged in, but I don't think there's any questions. But if you do have any questions about guitar, it's plugged in, so I can help you out. And as always, I think there's more people now that we're done in the room than when we start. But if you're new here, or if you're watching this from the future, do remember that at 6:30, right on time, I usually connect and play live and do the live stream. And sometimes I play a live song, even though right now I'm not doing it because I've been working on the new album. By the way, yesterday I was working on a new song for like 8 hours. And at the end of the 8 hours, I listened to everything. I'm like, man, I just wasted 8 whole hours. And I threw everything out. And so I just wanted to know that it happens. And sometimes you throw away 8 hours, and then the next 20 minutes are magic, and those 20 minutes stay in the final record. So I don't know if it makes you feel any better, but wasting 8 hours is not such a big deal. It happens to everyone. All right, so I'm gonna wait for a little while to see if there's any more questions or comments. And so that is cool. We could share your channel, that is art, and the Jim's music. We'll check it out. and Kike has a channel, check it out. And of course, Alex, who's not here, also, he has actually a great channel. I don't know how many subscribers, but you know, he plays covers of music. He plays really well, really well. And yeah, he also writes some you know, original music as well. But his covers, I think, are the ones that made him, you know, people really know him for. Great guitar player. All right. So if there's no more questions, of course, feel free to use the comments. I know comments are not a popular thing on live videos because people then watch it. But do leave your comments. Especially, I would appreciate your comments on what to do next. And so if you have any pressing matters that you would like discussed, technique or composition, you know, whatever it is, feel free to suggest it in the comments. And again, thanks to all of you for just being here. Is fine and is more than enough. But for those of you who went above and beyond, I got your you know, donations, and they're of course always appreciated. I know the last video on guitar technique was pretty well received, and from what I heard, was very useful for a lot of you. So I appreciate it very much, and I appreciate you guys being here. And I will look forward to seeing you next week, Saturday, 6:30 p.m. Central European Time, 12:30 p.m. in New York City, and 9:30 a.m. in LA. So have a good one, and I will see you very soon. I think today might be the shortest live stream music talk video we've done. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will play a lot more guitar next week, I promise. All right? See you soon, have a good one, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.